What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. We have a banger of an episode that we watched today or yesterday. I watched it today about 2 hours ago. I'm still reeling from everything that happened, but I have an awesome group of people here to talk with me about it. I'm joined by Sandy, movie comic junkie. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Right.
Great. Awesome. It's great to have you. And then we've got Silmarillion, Leah. How are you? Leah, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I watched it at 8 a.m. when it first came out. I'm still reeling from it. So I can imagine how you're feeling after 2 episodes. It's still just like in my brain. Like...
It's a lot. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
It was a very long scene that lasted for a while. And yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once again, we're joined by Peter at Belmont, Lord of the Rings. How are you?
I'm good, just here repping Voice of Arda as we always are, and excited that, we're doing this again with Podwans.
I am very excited because, I'm both excited and sad because I know there's only one more to do, and I've had such a good time doing this. But we'll make it up. We'll figure something else to talk about and get back together. But man, I say, yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. I think we should jump into it. The Battle of Eregion.
It was a lot.
It's really hard to pick a place to start, but I think
can I say something, because it's something that I actually don't think I've seen discussed everywhere, but because it happened fairly early on. But Adar's battle tactics when he started turning the trebuchets to dam the river, like. That was brilliant. That was really good. Like, because obviously none of them seen it. Even Sauron looked like shocked at that.
Yeah. It was kind of wild. I wonder if they're gonna tie it in with the Cyrano and like rule that forms in front of Khazad-dûm over time. Yeah. But I we'll see.
Yeah. That was a really cool part. It was interesting seeing like when they started realizing that the trebuchets were no longer aiming for the city, and then just watching that mountain just kind of come down, like that was it was really cool. It looked fantastic. I thought that was awesome.
And the way Sauron used that as well as another way to undermine Celebrimbor's competence and like authority with the other elves, because he told them Celebrimbor says the river will protect us, and then just as he says that, the river is taken out of play. And again, it reflects badly on Celebrimbor. So now it makes the elves turn more to him to save them. So it was another very clever manipulation by Sauron, almost as if like, he saw that coming. Actually, I say he looked taken aback, but was that just him playing?
I don't think he saw it coming. I don't.
But it worked in his favor.
Yeah,
as all things seemingly does.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how I caught it early, like just a second before everyone else. Like it was like, oh, prepare for a ground assault. I was like, yeah, he's seen it. He knows what's up.
Yeah. I think maybe that's a good segue to Sauron revealing himself to Celebrimbor. Like the way that happened, I thought was so interesting. With Celebrimbor marking the candle. And then seeing that mouse over and over again.
Mr. Mouse, MVP.
Mr. Mouse!
When
I saw Star Wars Tia posted something, and it was like the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's like the head of the mouse, and it's what's her name? The Hightower, where she's like, I want Cersei to know it was me, except it said I want Sauron to know it's me. It's the mouse.
See, I was hoping for something different. I was hoping he would see the mouse and like the mouse would hop on his head and control his little hairs, and he would help him make the rings.
It's just mini Sauron.
Some say that they thought the mouse was Sauron.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I was like,
Sauron.
Come on, guys. He did eat
That's like
that
a whole
rat at
other
the
level.
start.
I did like that though. Like, I like with how they've done Celebrimbor that they haven't made him just a complete pushover and a complete victim. Like he has pushed back against Sauron and Adar quite a lot with, when he called him out on playing games and was like, no, I'm not doing the rings and stuff like that. And then he had the wherewithal to work out that there's some kind of illusion going on. Like
It's funny
it
how
out.
calm Anatar is with Celebrimbor, even after he shoved him, and all that like business. And like you saw the look on his face after. He's like, "I'll kill you. Like I will kill you." Yeah. He looks that way when Merdania touches him. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing right now? This is uncalled for."
Yeah, he hates being touched.
But I like, I do like how they set it up where he really is so conceited that he thinks he truly is the one holding the storm at bay. He's the one who's going to save all of them and perfect this world and bring peace. And he's so malicious about it that he doesn't see Celebrimbor more than a tool, just like he sees everything. Everyone there, Merdania, the head guard, all of them. This is all ploy for him to get what he wants. Adar out of the way, an army, and rings to control everyone. And it's pretty much working out to his favor, save, how the episode ends with the 9. But I do like your point that Celebrimbor really speaks up for himself. And I got to say the transition, like, he kind of tossed Fëanor's hammer, which was hilarious for me. He's like, "Fuck this, I'm done with this." Like, like so many levels. Like, I'm done with this smithing. And but like the reveal and just like the whole place is just covered in dust. He has blood on him. He's obviously been injured in the attack. He doesn't even realize it.
Yeah,
that's how much he was in his own head. He had no idea he was hurt. That there's a hole in the roof, and it's just like, and you wonder what's going to happen now in the finale. But that's for another discussion.
That's what's so crazy about it. I think it's like, it actually showed how unbelievably powerful Sauron is. Because I think like most people just don't really understand that, because they see him in like the prologue of Lord of the Rings, where he's just like, swinging a giant mace around, and he's just a giant eye on top of a tower.
Yeah.
And then like he's just controlling those other elves. I was like, that's fucking Sauron. Like,
that was crazy. He like takes them all up at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, almost dancing at that point. And then he's like, he dodges that guy. He's like, "Come on, bro, you don't know what you're getting yourself into."
Everything that happens in Celebrimbor's like smithing area, like in this episode, and like I do want to maybe harp on that transition, just because of how well it was done, how well it was shot, of him walking out on when he hears the explosions in the distance, when Celebrimbor throws the hammer out, and then walks to the balcony, sees the destruction, and then turns back in, and it's like just the slow reveal where you start to see like almost ash or dust just coming through the light shafts, and then it just gets worse and worse as the camera pans. I thought that was just so well done, just from like a filming
working
standpoint.
In those conditions too, which is crazy.
Like,
I wondered, one thing I do wonder if the embers, like the fire, was Sauron's doing, where like it wouldn't go out type thing. And I wonder, because like, I mean, something that blows my mind is, and I know I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, is like the blood, which is like, I don't know about you guys. My whole threads page turned into the goop. It was like, we were gooped up. I was gooped up to my eyeballs. We're talking about everything from like how much goop is going into the one ring. This is crazy. But like, the blood, he sees it cook up and he makes the ore. It's like, what else did he put in there? Was it probably silver at this point, because he has no Valinor gold, or no gold in general for these rings? They're all silver. And I found that so interesting that the designs have changed so much, where you see the 3 and the 3 different materials at this point, but then the 7 look like they're all gold with huge gems in them.
Yeah.
And then now the 9, though they have gems in them, are more intricate, have these like really interesting design. One of them had like 4 gems on it, but they're all silver. And I never pictured the rings like that. I always pictured them like as ornate, but just sort of gold.
It's interesting from a lore perspective. But I think from a lore perspective, they would have made more sense being gold, just because of that thing of how there is more of the Morgoth element in gold. And it's why elves prefer silver, because it is the metal with the least amount of Morgoth element in it. So it kind of, I think it would have been the other way around. But of course, like, that's a tiny lore thing that the 99% of people aren't going to know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah.
They've inverted this whole thing where a lot of times, if you had asked me like 2 years ago, you told me everything was going to go down this way, I probably would have been like, why are you changing the ring order to this? But now, having seen it play out with how they want to tell the story, where they're more focused on the overarching themes, really hitting home with who Sauron is, how powerful he is, how easily he's disrupted Middle Earth when it was in this state of peace for a while, regardless of the fating of the elves. And I think it's been brilliantly done.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously a lot of people complain they don't like it because they've changed a lot of the lore, but it's like they've changed certain aspects of it in terms of the order the rings were made, those like details of it, but like you say, they've stayed true to the lore more in the sense of thematically that side of it, of who Sauron is and his motivations, and just the fact that he is cunning and manipulative and intelligent. That's where his true power always was his ability to read people and to know how to push their buttons. Like, he is a clever person. That has always been his strength. And the fact that they've focused on depicting that side of it, it feels right. So it makes me less bothered by the fact that they've made the rings out of order and stuff like that.
Yeah, they could have easily just made him like dumb powerful, like swinging people like he was in the prologue, and they're just flying everywhere, which I loved. I'm about that too. That.
Yeah,
but I think we need to build up to that.
It's why I also like, I mean, the way that he has, because obviously in the lore he tortures Celebrimbor, but in the show it's a very mental torture that he's had him locked in this, and he's messing with his head.
We don't know how it's going to end.
We don't know how it's going to end. But I do like that at least up till now.
Episode 8 is just straight torture, just an hour of torture.
They put the fire to the boy, just, then the stranger shows up, and that's how he knows how to torture Gollum. That's how he learns, dude. It's all firsthand experience.
Pete, the fact we have this joke, I read that the other night, and it's like a really dark line, and I actually laughed out loud because
it's so dark. It's Gandalf the torturer. I'm like, why?
The fact that that's become this running joke with us now that I laughed out loud reading it.
Because it's like just to pull Chase and Sandy, so you know how that is coming out. It's like we keep making fun of it because they're saying it's going to be a 2-part movie, and if you know how the story goes, it's like Gollum goes like all over the place. He's eating babies in Dale and stuff, and then he's at Mordor, looking for the ring, and he gets caught and all that, and that's when he talks about Sauron having a form and having 9 fingers. But then he leaves, and then like Aragorn's about to give up around the Dead Marshes. He's like, Emyn Muil. He's like, this is terrible. What am I doing? And he finally finds tracks. He's like, oh, I found a little stinker. And he grabs him and like drags him and pretty much like tortures him on the way. And it says that he's like, I was not kind to him, and Gollum has no love for me. And like, okay, dude. And then they bring him to Mirkwood, and Gandalf's there, and you're like, oh, it's Gandalf. And Gandalf's like, I straight tortured him for the information. I put the fire to him. And you're like, what?
I put the fear of fire on him. Yeah.
It's like, oh, what?
Gandalf, you little scamp.
It's just like, so now they're making the films of it, The Hunt for Gollum. And it's like, is that what we're going to see?
That's amazing. That's
one
just
thing
Ian
like,
McKellen just torturing Andy Serkis.
Oh my god, but like, yeah, it's just, and then you think about the stranger. He's so literal in the Rings of Power. It's my only complaint. Like, he has to learn everything. It has to be shown to him to the point where Tom Bombadil's telling him lines he's gonna say later. I'm like, you guys, chill. So yeah. Anyways.
Maybe it's not Gandalf.
I'm sorry. I just at this point I'm just like, it's Gandalf.
If it's not Gandalf at this point, they have purposely misled us, and that will annoy me. That was like,
it feels like it's gonna be Gandalf.
It's gotta be,
like by a lot, Like, I mean,
but to bring, I was thinking about bringing the mood down and talking about Mirdania.
Not Celebrimbor. We were all wrong, per usual with this damn show.
See, that was another thing that was really, it was very dark, and the way it showed how everyone is just a tool to Sauron. But because we've been so much on that it's Celebrimbor and they're a fake name thing, that it was just like, oh shit, well, it's not Celebrimbor there.
Yeah.
Well,
it just shocked me because it was so sudden. Like,
yes,
I didn't.
I spoke to you both about this before, but I want to hear Sandy. Like, what did you think about Mirdania up until this point? Because like we were all like, oh, is this Celebrimbor? Is this Galadriel's daughter? We were like making up crazy theories at this point.
No, I was honestly also on that train. To be fair, like I wasn't at the start, but then I saw one of Lee's videos about it, and I was like, oh, no, she's right. Yeah, it's got to be. And then there was that line, like that weird, like, your hair reminds me of Galadriel, right? And I was like, you wouldn't say that unless it means something. And then, episode 7 happens, and like it's so weird because I was like she dies in a very gruesome way, and like I felt more
Horribly.
like disappointment than horror. I was like, oh.
So apparently the scene was supposed to be more gory too. Like they wanted the orcs to pick the like body up and like drink the blood and stuff. I was like, which one are you going for, dude? Are they misunderstood or are they chugging blood? This is crazy.
Yeah,
but they obviously didn't go with it.
To be fair, I thought this episode was like pretty like gory. Like I thought it was quite bloody, like surprisingly.
Yeah, it was very, very violent. There's definitely one part I do want to talk about because it definitely felt like influence from another series. But yeah, I was surprised that happened. Like I had a feeling that like Sauron was going to do something like terrible to her, and I feel like I need to
as soon as he said like that you will be rewarded or whatever it was,
yeah,
something bad was going to happen to her, but I didn't expect it that quickly.
Yeah, because it felt like, and I need to rewatch it, and maybe you can correct me. It felt like Celebrimbor just shoved her away, and then Sauron pushed.
Sauron like had his hand, like had Celebrimbor's hand have more force than it should have, and he just like kind of slapped her away. Which was like when it happened, I was like I started yelling it. I was like, oh my god!
When she falls, and like, I mean, it's like it's realistic. Let's be real. You fall from that height, it's not gonna be ouch. Sorry about that. It's
heartbreaking as well because Celebrimbor has just killed her with his hands.
Yeah,
and she dies thinking that it was Celebrimbor that killed her, which breaks my heart for both of them.
I didn't even think about that. I'm like, that's really messed up.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. She dies thinking like this important person that she cares about is the one who killed her, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was.
Damn you, Sauron!
It was a super sad scene, but what you guys are saying is like this is Sauron. Like we are seeing him like.
There's
what
a
seems to
reason
be like at his full.
Him called Thauer the Cruel.
Yeah. It's all. I'm sure that there's somewhere in the lore where he's more power. He exerts more power, but this was nuts. I feel like everything Sauron did in this episode was nuts.
I mean, the only other thing is like him turning into a serpent and a vampire, maybe. But still, like, and then he has like the Nandungorthep stuff going down. But I still think this is him. He's done like the most powerful we've ever seen Sauron. I mean, let's think about the movies. We kind of just saw like Spotlight Sauron, you know?
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. I'm like, he did all that, and he didn't even like lift a finger. He didn't actually like do anything. That was just it was words. Like that's what's so crazy to me.
The commander elf of Eregion, he gets dirty with that one. But it was wild to see because like in the movies, like you're right, he's a big eyeball and he's looking at stuff. And you see like in the prologue, you see him like launching people in the air, and that's really it. So it is wild to see all of this. Like,
I'm loving it because for me, I'm loving that people are getting to see Sauron being Sauron, like Sauroning, as I keep putting it. It's this, like I say, this is what his strength was in knowing how to target people. He does it repeatedly, even like on an individual scale with Gorlim in the Silmarillion, which Kahina said in the comments. Yeah, like that's very much like a microcosm of Sauron as a whole, is how he sees where people's weaknesses are and he exploits them. He did it with Celebrimbor in the show by playing on him living in the shadow of Feanor for his whole life and like wanting to create Summit to be known for his achievements and not his grandfather's. And also, like as I say, the cunning and the cleverness, that is how Sauron works. I mean, he does it in Lord of the Rings in the box with Denethor through the Palantir. Like he messes with Denethor's heads. He sees Denethor's weaknesses and exploits them. But obviously that was removed from the film. So I think for a lot of people, this is the first time they're getting to see real Sauron and like what he is really capable of. And
I don't think they were ready for hot Sauron. I don't think they were ready for it.
No, it's like it's been quite funny seeing people being confused by like, oh my god, do I fancy Sauron? And I'm yeah, you do.
The answer is yes, you do fancy Sauron.
Like,
it's funny seeing people respond to each other like, oh, I think Sauron's hot. And then other person being like, Sauron's not hot. You see him in the movies, you read about him in the books, he's evil. And it's like, some of it.
I mean, it's like people say he is canonically hot. Like, he takes fair form. What do they think that means? He looks beautiful. He does it on purpose. Like, stupid sexy Sauron has been a thing for a while. And then, like, you know, there's been fan art of Sauron and stuff that's been brilliant, but of him as like this beautiful. I mean, this is a guy who insisted on continuing to call himself the Admirable. Like, I think it's pretty in keeping that he would make himself look pretty as well, which he does, because Tolkien says he takes fair form. So,
yeah, I mean, it got the job done. Look at Eregion, like,
yeah,
yeah. We're about to see another place. Have a little fun.
It's not over.
But yeah, we got a little off topic. But yeah, Mordania's thing. I love the actress. I want to point that out. I thought she did really well.
She was really good. She was really good.
That was brutal.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
I would have really liked her to have been Celebrimbor. Like, I think she would have been really good in the role if that had been. It's going to be interesting when I rewatch the series, and I think I'll be able to appreciate her more as a character, because I won't have it in my head that she's secretly Celebrimbor anymore, which is just what I was thinking every time she was on screen. But she did really well, and her death was brutal. It shocked me with how sudden and quick it was. But yeah, and it broke my heart for both her and Celebrimbor that she died thinking he killed her.
Yeah, but I do want to pivot from her to the character who I think really stole the show, was kind of the star, was Elrond in this episode. Like,
I disagree with him being the star. I fully think this was the Celebrimbor Charles Edward show, but Elrond was also incredible in this episode.
I think Celebrimbor is integral to the episode, but like, I think the surprise of Elrond being what Robert Arameo being, like, really changing it up a little with this, and I love that they address it in the show. Adar's like, you know, more courtier, more likely to wield a scroll than a sword. He's like, you haven't seen me wield either, and like he's talking mad shit. But you know, this is gonna drive over, because like, he was a badass in the meeting. The charge was amazing. Like, you listen, they're speaking Sindarin, and they're like running in, like the way they stop their horses. I saw people complain, being like, horses can't do that. Yeah, well, there's a sea worm in the ocean.
Yeah,
can we not do this right now?
Also, elves have a bond with their horses almost on a telepathic level,
and they showed that, which I thought was really great when Elrond's horse is killed, and like, he stops in the middle of the battle to hold the horse. Like, there were so many moments with Elrond in this episode when he goes to Khazad-dûm, and he's asking again for help from Durin, and he acknowledges, he's like, I only ask for things, you know, he's like, I only ask for the impossible. That's all I ever do. And it's just everything he did in this episode surprised me, especially one scene. I wonder
what that could be.
But just him seeing Elrond the warrior, seeing Elrond the kind, Elrond the compassionate, like so many aspects of Elrond.
The leader as well.
Yeah, there was one point where when he's walking towards the Ravager, the siege machine that they have, and he screams, "Destroy it!" And I was like, "Ooh, Daddy!" I was like, "You just got hotter than Halbrand for a second there."
Yeah.
And just like so many moments of this episode that I was just like I've always liked him in this show. He's always been a good and interesting character, but this episode really just took him over the top for me. Just, I mean, from the performance to his actions and where his story is going. What you said is, it's like, you've never seen me wield either. Like, just showing you how capable of a person he is, and like, I loved it. But the kiss.
Look at I'm gonna get into it. First off, I don't want to get into the kiss first. I'd like the Adar Elrond thing where he drops like if you have any wisdom in your veins, like your grandmother, you know, like and I was like, whoa, dude, like,
yeah.
First off, great grandmother, right?
Did he not say foremother?
He said foremother.
Did he say foremother? Okay,
foremother.
Thank you for keeping me true. So if he said, I would have been tight. But Melian, the Maya, or I'm sorry, the Valar, as they say it, which is the Maya is not. Lee and I looked through it. Maya is not in Lord of the Rings ever mentioned.
No.
But in of Thingol and Melian, the chapter in the Silmarillion, it does state, you know, Melian of the Maya, of the race of the Valar. I came
on here, did a video on TikTok because someone commented on my video saying they called Melian a Valar, which proves they don't know the law. It's like, no, it proves they don't have the right to the word Maiar. And then I quoted
they're using a little workaround.
Yeah, I quoted that line and saying they're paraphrasing this from the Silmarillion. And
we're talking about houses and the elves too. Like, you know, the elves don't like, you could be a kinsman of and not be like fully related to someone in that sense, where it's like Gildor and Glorion is a perfect example. No one, the story changed over time, so he's not associated and not the son of anyone, being who Finrod becomes. So he's just associated with the house, and like that's how they kind of treated it here, and I like that. But you know, really great lore drop, love it. How does Adar know that? We'll figure it out maybe another time, or we never will. Let it be, you know.
Or whenever find it, it'll just be a mystery.
Yeah, it might just be a thing. Yeah.
But exactly. The whole thing with like the kiss though, I know it's not romantic and I know it's a distraction, but I really do feel like they are just messing with fans a little bit with that.
Yes.
They like, because they knew the ramifications as showrunners, and like I'm sure Robert Aramayo was like, he even said it earlier, like, yeah, it's not romantic. It's more familial, and I get the overt affection from Lord of the Rings because a lot of characters are affectionate even in the movies. You know, a lot of hand holding, a lot of like, you know, Frodo resting his head on Samwise, a lot of stuff like that in the movies.
Everything they do is affectionate. Okay.
Yeah, like they're very affectionate. No, but I'm not even talking about just the movie. I'm talking about the books too. It's very much like even after with Frodo, when Samwise checks his hand, he holds his hand to see if it's warm because of like the injury from the Morgul blade and what have you. It's very much like affectionate. But this just felt like over the top a little, where you're like, come on, like you didn't need to fully do this. I get why you did it. I'm not upset because the rest of the episode was so fucking sick that I'm like, look at me swearing over this. I'm like, it's so good that I was just like, you know, whatever, I'm gonna just walk away from that. But I think it's something that eventually I'm gonna have to address with the show, where I'm like, you didn't have to, and full well knowing what the relationship is with Elrond and Galadriel being his mother-in-law eventually. So now he's gonna type. He's got to type now.
I fully agree. It's like when it happened, before I realized it was him passing her the thingy, I actually shouted at the TV, "What the fuck?" And I realized what was happening, and I calmed down a bit. But I fully agree with you. I still don't like that it was in there. I don't think it was at all necessary. They could have found another way for him to give her the pin. I do believe, or I really feel like they put it in there to make people talk, and I actually think that's been to the detriment overall, because now it's kind of overshadowed some of the other parts of it. Like, it was a good enough episode. It didn't need an artificial talking point. And it's like, because now there's so much of the discourse is about the kiss, it's detracting from other areas of the episode that deserve the attention a lot more. And I at the time, because as you said, the rest of the episode was so good, I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But I really don't like that they put it in. I really think it was very unnecessary. And I agree.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I am with the whole thing as well. Like, it's sort of like I've sort of turned a blind eye to it. I hated it. I'm sorry, I don't think there's really any excuse for it whatsoever. I think it was just terrible. But like, the rest of the episode was actually just so good, and that hype's only going to last for so long before eventually it'll be like.
I've already gone down a little. Like, I love everything about it, but like, they seem to have this problem where they just kind of want to push the envelope a little too far in the show.
Yeah.
And they're like, we could get away with a little more because we need to dramatize this. We need this to be a high-flying fantasy show that's going to catch your attention and get your oohs and ahs out of you as well. And I'm like, dude, this is Tolkien. If you didn't realize it, he spends like 20 minutes talking about the histories and like the Council of Elrond, like just talking about the Silmarillion because he can. And like he does it also in The Hobbit when they're in the Battle of Eregion, where he just starts talking about the different types of elves. He also sits there and overtly describes food for no reason and like just then never talks about it again. Like this is a guy who is very wordy.
The fox that never appears again.
Never again. Like the Cockney wallet that talks. Like this dude's out of his mind about stuff, loving mythos and the mythos he's studying and reading about. I don't think he really gives a crap if there's a kiss in there. But I also think he'd say the same thing. He'd be like, why?
Yeah. And it's like you say as well, it's the showrunners obviously know who Elrond goes on to marry. So it's like, yeah, okay, but he and Celebrimbor don't know each other yet. But it's like, but we do, and they know that we do. And so it just feels
too in the chat
wrong.
too. Like they just want to get a rise out of people who don't know the lore as much, so they could do this type of stuff and mess with them. And what they'll do is they'll backtrack later. They'll be like, oh, they'll talk and be like, this wasn't right, blah blah blah. And I really hope they don't do that scene because I'll probably throw a shoe at my TV or something. Well, good thing I watched on my phone. I can just throw my phone. But like, yeah, I'll just have to like put it in like, I don't know. Have you guys ever have you ever read Stephen King, like The Shining or like Dreamcatcher?
I've read a few, yeah.
So there's abilities in there where they're able to store things in their minds, like Duddits and stuff like that, and Dreamcatcher, and then like in The Shining and Doctor Sleep, he's able to hide certain aspects because the spirits feed off his ability. And it's like that with the kiss. I'm just gonna put it in a box and never think of it again. And if it gets brought up, it's gonna be me like, oh, sorry, bro, that's all the way deep in there. It's gonna be like some Indiana Jones in the Noah's and the Ark, like in the back, like warehouse, never seen again type shit. Like, the music just cues and like goes out.
Put it in the box with the roots of the Hittite cleared.
Like this, dude, like like it's going back there, dude. Just put it away.
The fact
the box opened up.
I haven't thought about that shit in forever.
Galadriel going west and all that. It's just that stuff that I don't want to remember. Stick it in there with all that.
Dude, I will say this. I haven't thought about that shit. I watched the episode with Tim before it would like debuted the premiere, like, so we were together hanging out, Bard of Arda, and we like sat there, we watched that 20 minutes and are like, all right, bro, do you feel sobered up a little about this show now? And I'm like, yeah, dude, I have no expectations. So you're right.
Had I not been talking to you guys over the past few weeks, I would have probably been like, yeah, that makes sense that they kissed. They've kind of had a little bit of like, they've been very close. I'll say that. But also there was a part of me, now that I have been talking to you guys, I'm like, they're not supposed to kiss. That I was like,
there's also
did he have the ring in his mouth and he just like transferred it over to her like that? I thought it was gonna be like,
you know what, that did occur to me for a moment as well. And just another point about it is as well, it's just a thing in media and in general perceptions about how men and women can't just be friends. And I loved that Galadriel and Elrond were a lovely depiction of a platonic love. Like they were just friends, and now they've kind of ruined that a bit as well. So
I still think they're friends.
I know they are, but it's just like in putting that in, I don't know.
Now there's a little bit more to it because
she looked shocked too. She was like, "What the fuck,
she
bro?"
Was like,
she did. She was like,
and the show's established that like she's known him since they were like he was a kid. So I just want to point that
out. Maybe in the next episode or maybe next season, like maybe she will be like, "Do you ever even think of doing that again?"
And I hope he responds. He's like, "That's gross. You're right. Like I only did it for that. Would never like that. I got the hots for your daughter. I have a type now, though." Like,
that's how she finds out.
Do you think the characters will address that, or do you think that the show will just leave it? Do you think
I don't think it will.
Into the box it goes.
I'm going to say 50-50 on that one. I think there's a 50% chance still that either the next episode or in the following season it will be addressed, or 50%
it will never be mentioned.
It's never talked about again. It was just, hey, that was to distract the orcs. That's it. Deal with it. But
quick and stiff and
overall, I would have preferred them just not to have done it. To be honest,
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's on the same page.
I'm also jealous of Morfydd Clark a little bit. That's also frustrating.
That is the most attractive Elrond has ever been. Is this episode like?
Yes.
Dude, I got the hots for both of them. I'm not gonna lie.
No, genuinely,
there's a
whole
movie
cast
she's
just
in
seems
that's
so
very
much
good
hotter
that I
this
had
series, and I don't know what it is, but like I kind of see it with Adar as well, and that was concerning me a little bit. I was like,
I thought that the first actor of Adar was more attractive than this actor, and with this episode, I was like, he's hot again. All right, okay.
Got the smolder going on, but
yeah,
when he was crying over the orc bodies, I was like,
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
You kind of got a little hot there. You're caring for your troops, but that kind of does segue maybe to the next point that I thought was really interesting is this distrust the orcs are starting to have for Adar of it's just like you're throwing us like pawns and telling us you love us, but you're sending out the giant is that a troll or
it's a troll? It's a hill troll.
It's a troll. Yeah. Okay. Like you're sending that and they're telling you like he's going to kill the orcs and he's like, yeah, send him. But then you also see this other side of him.
He said as well to them as well, like bring the wall down at any cost or something. And then is it Gluck? The
Glue,
dad,
Glue Nation, dude.
Yeah, he gave him a look at that point.
Dude, it was so awkward though when he's like, I think he says, I thought you loved us or some shit. Yeah. He's like, with all that remains in my heart, I'm like, I guess, like I appreciate it, but I'm like
you're kind of showing it in a funny way though.
We're sieging things up right now.
I really like this aspect of the episode with Adar is because they are showing us things that he does care, like when he's crying over the orcs, when he says to was the second in command orc basically that is kind of like the main guy next to Adar.
Glue.
Yeah. He tells him, he's like, I don't want you to become a slave of Sauron. Like, I think he is trying to say, like, he's like, even if I sacrifice 10,000 orcs, it's better than you becoming slaves to Sauron. And I think he's looking at it. And I do think there's a little bit of Sauron's corruption where he's driving and stopping at all, not stopping at any cost. I think there's a little bit, he's at odds almost with himself as there's this aspect of Sauron's corruption getting to him. He's giving Sauron what he wants, but he's also trying to protect his family. And I really enjoyed that aspect of this episode with Adar because he's becoming a more complex villain as we go along, and I really like that. And it's just one of those things about this episode that, well, yes, it was very much an hour and 10-minute battle scene at the end of the day. I really like the development that we did get with Adar.
There was a lot of character work going on, even with the amount of battle. And I feel like this episode for me was the most because for most of this series, this Adar has felt like a very different character to the first series Adar.
Yes.
And this episode was the first time that I saw glimpses of series 1 Adar, where he was like showing that affection for the orcs and crying about them and stuff. Because that just seemed to have got lost somehow with the recast. I don't know if it was all down to the way the new guy was playing it or the writing shifted or something, but this was the first time that he felt like he was actually the same character, and his desperation over he needs to defeat Sauron because otherwise his orcs get enslaved, and he genuinely does seem to believe that them dying in battle is worse than them getting enslaved. It doesn't look like Luke necessarily agrees with his assessment, or that they should be risking it, which I imagine Sauron is going to use to his advantage. But like I like Adar because you do have there was a lot of pathos around the first series one especially, and I felt it again in this episode when he's crying at, like, they're doing the kind of funeral rites for the orcs and things like that. I think even Galadriel was moved by that. She was like surprised by what she was seeing.
Yeah.
Like, damn, they actually
there was
do have
there was a
culture in it.
humanization. Yeah, there she felt it, and I liked it a lot.
Which is a far cry from series 1 scene where she's shouting at Adar about how she's going to commit genocide on them all and stuff like that. So we're seeing character growth there as well. But yeah, Adar is definitely conflicted about it. And he is a fantastic character. And yeah, this was the best episode of him for me as well.
I 100% agree.
I want to jump ahead though, like we can talk about it at the end, but it's just I have such a thing about Adar with what he gets at the end of the episode. It bugs me a lot because someone brings up his arc and like being a parallel with Sauron and how he'll end up with the same fate. It's hard to see it, and I guess I'm really having a problem. I don't know about you all, seeing how they're going to end this in this season or the next episode alone. I really feel like there's too much going on.
Yeah,
there is way too much going on. I think we have like the entirety of Eregion to wrap up, and then we've also got Numenor's going on. We got like the Stranger and the Harfoots out there somewhere.
Khazad-dûm too.
Khazad-dûm.
There's a lot. So unless it's a really long episode,
it's not.
I think
it's an hour 10. It's an hour 10.
Yeah, okay, that's a lot of threads to try and do stuff.
But I also think there's going to be threads that are left untied. But before we jump into like the finale, you did bring up Khazad-dûm, and that was, I think, the one reprieve we got, even though it wasn't much of a reprieve, was going back to Khazad-dûm, where Prince Durin is overthrowing the king, or is attempting to overthrow the king. And I loved when Elrond came back to Khazad-dûm and spoke to Durin. I love that scene and that moment with them together. That was great. But the speech he gave to all of Khazad-dûm was so good, and it was so awesome to see him in that position where he has essentially all of Khazad-dûm behind him, ready to defend not only Khazad-dûm but their new friends, the elves. And his speech was really good. Seeing when he turns to the outlook, and then you see all of Khazad-dûm standing there with him, and I was like, oh my god, it was so.
Talks about their loyalty and proving like how deep their loyalty runs. It was awesome. It got me mad. It got me very high.
Yeah, the only thing more valuable than minerals was their loyalty, and I just, man, it was such a power. There's so many powerful moments of this episode, and that definitely stuck out to me. But then, go ahead.
It's just with that scene, I couldn't fully appreciate his speech because I don't know if it was the way it was shot or what. Because before they cut to that, they show his dad holding the big axe. And then it cuts to him doing that speech, and you can't see behind him. And I spent that whole
I thought he was going to get hit.
I thought the exact same thing.
And so I was literally, I had my face like that because I was expecting it at any moment. So I couldn't really take in his speech because I was so stressed out thinking he's about to get hit with an axe.
I didn't actually get that. I don't know why. Maybe I just I was so
I was nervous. It didn't take me out of it, but I had the same feeling. I was like, if they do what they did to Valandil to Prince Durin, I was like, I'll be so upset. Like, they can't do that twice. But since you said that, like, what they did to the mining party that were I don't remember the character's name. Navi. When he comes covered in blood and said that the king like slaughtered his whole mining party.
He said he cut them like stalks of wheat.
Yeah.
I don't know, like with a sickle, almost easy.
Well, he had the big axe. He had the huge axe.
Durin's axe. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, is that the ring giving him power to do that? I wonder.
Is it him in a previous episode, the when he shoved Durin?
He
does seem to have some kind of extra strength now or something.
I don't know how I really feel about that. It's kind of weird.
No, I don't either. That is not.
Also, why is he slaughtering people? He's like, I need to mine that bad. Like, I don't know,
because they were trying to stop him.
I need my money.
He's gonna go down there.
They were going to.
That's what it looked like in the preview. He was like breaking that wall open himself. He's like, "Fuck it, I'm do this myself.
Well,
flinging gold over his back, just carrying it back up. Like
what I got out of that whole sequence was his son is trying to overthrow his kingdom. He's forming his army to go fight a cause he doesn't want to fight for. All of his kingdom is rallying away from him. Like I think he has a lot of.
I don't even think
stress.
He's considering any of that. He's just thinking about the mithril, dude. He's wholly focused. That's what turns Narvi to like side with Durin the younger, doing the fourth. He's like, yo, that's like he like grabbed him. He was like, yo, you get those mines open. We gotta get that money, dude. He's like
consumed by greed. He's just utterly been.
I think that's a huge part of it, but I also think there's just a lot more going on in that scene. Like he sees the threat that his son is. I
can't imagine that like the ring, the effect of it on his mind could well have like fueled a paranoia about my own son's trying to overthrow me, and now this is all I've got left is like getting these riches out, and all that kind of coming together to just.
I'm worried about Disa.
Mess with his head. Yeah,
me too.
I don't know if Durin had to call back the entire army though. To be fair, like he had like so many like. Surely, like maybe 10 dwarves with pickaxes, you could take out Durin.
But don't they know that something's down there because of what Disa saw?
They do, but like surely you're not going to have.
They know there's something in
just, like, trying to cram down a couple pathways to get to Durin at the bottom.
No,
like,
I suppose
just
like,
a wall.
they could have still sent some, but I think they know something is down there that is not good.
Yeah, I also think that the way that Elrond said in the end, like Durin will come over and over again. I don't think. Yeah, it's heartbreaking, but I think that they are coming, unless there's a lore reason that says they're not coming. But I have a feeling because I felt the same way. I was like, there's no way
they do. Yeah, in the lore they do.
Yeah,
so that's not. I don't want to spoil anything though, because it's very easy. But like they do come. Other events occur with the sacking of Eregion that they haven't even brought up, and I'm curious how they're going to meld it all together because everyone's forgotten about Pelargir. What happened to Isildur and Estelle? Or not Estelle, Estrid, not Estrid, whatever with her. Not Estelle.
Yeah.
But anyways, Estelle's
like
another
3
name
or
for
4
Aragorn.
episodes since we've seen them.
So I'm a little curious about that. Like, is there... I personally, because in the lore, the way it goes down is Sauron wins. All right, and he like pretty much pushes all the way. He like starts waging war on the Great Havens. Like he's going in, like he's trying to take over all of Eriador.
Like that's how far he's got.
And the Númenóreans show up, full force with Tar Minister and his son Kitatan, and they rock Sauron. He's done. He like runs off to Mordor, frightened, tail between his legs. But then it starts establishing what happens to the Númenors and their choices they make, making permanent harbors even more permanent. Taking from people, the middlemen of Middle Earth.
Organization.
So it's like, are we going to see any of that? Are we going to see some aspect of it? Because keep in mind, Midiel said it at the end of the first season. She's like, "We'll be back, dude. We're coming back."
But it's the implication is there that at least for Pelargir, that there was a Númenorian colony there, but it was abandoned a long time ago because Isildur says these ruins are Númenorian.
Well, we have to remember who was king prior to Palantir being Gimmelcad, who was like wholly against the faithful. He would have banished them, and one of the main reasons why they're in Romena is from him and like going down to Pharazôn, like banning them when Sauron shows up. They'll probably change it up and just have Pharazôn doing a lot of this, but there's an establishment of why these places would be abandoned in my eyes. So I never really worried about that. Though I laughed at their only advancement was like aqueducts. They were like, "We got running water, dude. Everyone else is whack." Like,
I mean, they've got individual water in their houses, like we have. Like,
it's advanced.
That's pretty advanced.
But it's like you're not going to talk about piping, just aqueducts, like whatever.
Isildur didn't mention aqueducts. He just said they've got running water in their home.
They said running water, but right? I don't know.
He
says this is an aqueduct.
He says that.
Oh, did
he?
Yeah.
Dude. Okay. Aqueduct. We're making a new aqueduct in Númenor. Like,
I know. Yeah.
I mean,
the aqueduct
as well. Like, is that the only thing they're advancing?
Oh my god, right. Because I remember saying this now. Yeah, it's like they're obsessed with aqueducts.
The aqueducts quota just went upwards. We need more aqueducts.
But regardless, Khazad-dûm is like it's an integral part of the Second Age, and I really hope that something occurs. I mean, we know Durin the Third is going to fight the Balrog. We saw scenes of the Balrog carving down the mountain, so it's like we know something's going to go down. I hope it's epic. It better be epic. Watch him like try to do parallels with Gandalf, like falling off the bridge of Khazad-dûm, and it's just him with the axe. I would laugh so hard. I would love it because it's so ridiculous. But yeah, I know. I don't know. Do you guys have any predictions for what's going to happen with the dwarves next episode, or are you like kind of going to hold your?
I think that the army will show up. I think Sandy's right. Like, there's no way they needed to hold the entire army to stop King Durin.
Yeah.
I think we will see why they were delayed next episode. And I hope we get. I really hope that heartbreaking line from Elrond is like redeemed.
I kind of feel like they have to, because there's only a small amount of
and a lot of them
the elves left, and there's a lot of orcs.
Yeah, there was like 20 of those guys. Like, my God,
there's no way that any of them would survive. So I feel like they've got to come.
That brings me to the one thing I did want to mention that was involving Celebrimbor is when he's imprisoned in the tower to finish the rings, and when he does like do that, is he uses his device to
like those paper slicers in elementary school back in the day.
But the thing that I loved about it is like the way that was shot was very much the way that the original Saw was shot, where all they have to do is show you the tool and you know what's going to happen. And I really, as someone who loves the Saw franchise and just horror films in general, I love that like almost nod to a wholly separate genre and just the way that scene was shot of just like, you don't even have to show what's going to happen. You show the tool and you show him putting his thumb in. And it's just like,
as somebody who hates horror films and would be absolutely traumatized by the Saw films, I'm really glad that they didn't have it in shot.
Yeah, because in Saw it would be more than enough. But that was just a moment that, like, for me, really stood out. To like, they clearly watched some of these movies because it is a good filmmaking technique of just like, we just show you the instrument that's going to be in play here, and we don't have to show you anything else. You know what's going to happen, and I really did appreciate that. But
it was still
the whole exchange prior to that, though, was like one of the best parts of the episode for me. You know, Sauron talking about Morgoth being tortured by a god,
and just
whose will is mightier.
With the lore there as well, like how deep that went. Because I've seen people criticizing it, like saying, "Oh, they're trying to humanize Sauron when he should be just a straight up villain." And it's like the stuff he was saying is stuff that came direct from Tolkien. It's in a book called Morgoth's Ring, which is like number 12 or something of the History of Middle-earth series, where Tolkien wrote quite a lot about Sauron and about his motivations and how different he was from Morgoth and how he was about order and perfection, and he genuinely thought he could make Middle-earth better. All that stuff isn't the show making it up. It comes direct from Tolkien.
Yep.
And it was just incredible hearing that being said on screen. It was just like, and it was like the appreciation for, because they have clearly read Morgoth's Ring, or at least they've read those parts of Morgoth's Ring to know that stuff, because it is pretty much exactly as Tolkien described Sauron. And I just had so much appreciation and love for that, because yes, Sauron isn't this straight up black and white evil thing and nothing else character that so many people think he is. He never has been. And it was great seeing that like being conveyed properly on screen.
Yeah, I did like that, and the last scene we get with Sauron, when we briefly touched on it, but when the elves surround him and you just see him just like move his hand and he just takes full control over everyone.
Can I just really quick, address a comment, Kahina asking, did Morgoth torture Sauron? So it's not outright stated, but Sauron was terrified of Morgoth. Sauron was absolutely terrified of him. And knowing the kind of person Morgoth was, who was pretty much a straight up evil bad guy who was cruel, then I think it is perfectly likely that he would have tortured Sauron. Like totally. Like after his defeat by Huan and Luthien, Sauron doesn't go back to Angband. He goes to Tar-Nufuin. He is terrified of Morgoth. So yeah, it's not explicitly stated that Morgoth tortured Sauron, but it is perfectly within the realms of possibility. It's something I've always felt like from reading all the stuff that I've read of Tolkien's. I've always got that sort of feeling that would have been a thing that happened. So yeah, totally. I feel like it.
Yeah. To be fair, that's a great. Like, I don't think I ever considered that. Like, that was never something that I considered that Morgoth might have tortured Sauron. But when you think about it, like, yeah, because obviously he turned to Morgoth's side in the beginning. It's not like Morgoth forced him into it or anything like that. So I was like, oh, he's always gone along with it. But
he was.
When you think about it, like, I feel like Sauron has always never been where Morgoth was, right? Like, Morgoth was in Autumno, Sauron was in Angband. And then, like, Morgoth comes to Angband, Sauron does his whole stuff with Tol and Gawrath, and you're right. Then he went to Tar-Nufuin instead of going back to Angband. Like, yeah, it's really, I guess
I do like
the possibility.
The comment made during, like, the end of the with Fingolfin showing up, where it says, like, if Morgoth didn't leave, like, his, like, lieutenants and, like, officials were like, he had to go, or else, like, they would have made, like, almost made fun of him.
Yeah.
It was like, he would have lost respect with them. So it's like, I do want to point that out. Like, because I don't think Morgoth was torturing Gothmog. Like, that's a Balrog.
I don't think he had to torture Gothmog, though.
No. I think what the problem is that it's not explicit torture. It's like manipulation and mental torture, and like playing this game because he was the subservient to, like, the master being Morgoth. And from the start, even during the song, what was most people attracted to Melkor's power? That's what seduces Sauron in the beginning, like so many others. They were seduced and attracted to the power of his discord.
It's and his ability to let him get things done quicker and with less wasteful friction.
Yes. So I think it's not so, like, straightforward torture. I think it's one of those, like, very much an abusive relationship type aspects.
Yeah.
So to your point,
it's also the way he describes it is, do you know what it's like to be tortured by a god? The fact he's saying by a god gives the implication that it's not just a straight up, like, he had him on a rack or something like that. This is and like they are not incarnate beings, so torture for them can be something that we couldn't even comprehend.
Yeah, exactly.
As spirits, it's a kind of torture that we wouldn't necessarily even see or know, but definitely the abusive relationship. The fact, the way that it's like it says he was seduced to Melkor could even have, like, the sinister tones of, like, it was almost a deception. It was like, you can have all this because, as we know, Sauron's goals didn't align with Morgoth's. So when he got to that side, and suddenly it's like not necessarily everything that he was led to believe it would be. Like, he can't have his order because Morgoth just wants to go around stomping on stuff. And there's just so much in play there.
Talking about stomping on stuff, huh? Yeah, that's true. But I do want to. I think that's a good segue into, like, the next part we want to get into about.
Can I just say one more thing? Can I just say one more thing while we're on the Celebrimbor's thumb thing? And I know I've said this a few times in various places, but while that was obviously a very harrowing scene to watch, but Celebrimbor's strength to do it, and the line about whose will is greater. But I also just appreciated it as a nod to that guy there, Maedhros, who his uncle, Celebrimbor's uncle, who was hung from Hathangarodrim by his wrist by a metal band that couldn't be broken off. So Fingorn, in order to rescue him, had to cut his hand off. Yeah. And that was basically what we saw being paralleled with Celebrimbor. So I appreciated them doing that in, like, a very nice isn't the right word, you know what I mean, subtle way. Of, like, a little nod to Maedhros and the lore and stuff. As somebody who, those two are my two favorite characters in all of Tolkien, so having Celebrimbor referencing his uncle Maedhros was like, it was it sounds really morbid, but that scene was very special to me.
And Bath Time did say Celebrimbor had
yes, Mr. Mouse.
Oh yeah.
Couldn't have done it without him.
Couldn't have done it.
Mr. Mouse. And I told you, Mr. Mouse is my favorite
MVP.
character. But yeah, I do like it's such a like I said, my favorite part. But I feel like, you know, with the Battle of Eregion, it comes to a head towards the end when, you know, Adar calls in Damrod, the troll, who has a very metal with Meshuggah metal song created by Bear McCreary, one of the best parts. And I was telling someone today on Threads how that is a repurposed version of the troll song from Samwise Gamgee in the Fellowship of the Ring, and it's very good. So if you want to check that out, like compare the songs, put the lyrics next to each other, and though one's more graphic, they still talk about stone seats and what have you, and gnawing bones and all this stuff that Sam talks about. But Arondir this time is on a quest for revenge. And I actually want to talk about this where Galadriel finally is not being dragged in the dirt, like where she talks to Arondir and she's respected, gives him advice, follows her. They go through the secret dwarven passage into Eregion. They show up there and, like, you know, once again, Celebrimbor has escaped and has this conversation with Galadriel. And, you know, it's very revered where he talks about the light and like darkness, but more in a figurative and literal sense where it's like, what's going to defeat it? And it's really a play on like what Galadriel will become. The Lady of Light, Lady of Lorien.
Yeah.
Which is great. But I do want to talk about Arondir with that troll because he was a badass about it.
Yes. Yes. Arondir in this episode, even though he didn't have a ton of screen time, I thought he just was so, every time he fights, he's so awesome to watch. But what he did with the troll, and the way, just how fluid he is, and like I loved we'll get to the end, but like when they're in the orc camp and he has to like look back and give up going after Adar, when Galadriel tells him, like, I can't remember the line, but she said, like, we've lost so many elven heroes today.
There's been a dearth of heroes.
Yeah. Let's not have another one. And it's like oh, it's so sad. But just the way that Arondir, you know, he jumps from the wall, you know, he's you know, shooting the arrows and stuff and doing his thing.
What is it about them sylvan elves, man? Legolas, Arondir,
and there's so many moments of this episode that like we've glossed over, like the flame arrow on the Ravager.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did want to talk about Rian and that character and all the parallels they call back with Boromir and stuff. Was just, I'm glad that I've had a really big problem with the show killing off minorities just left and right. From like the Barrow Downs and this. Yeah. But at least they made it really badass. Where it's like, if we're gonna have like these one-off characters, at least like make sure they're doing something wholly cool. So they kept up with the whole thing. Like Galadriel found like the best archer, and Rian is fucking top notch. But also they had Rian get shot by 20 arrows. So I'm like, Jesus.
But when she got that shot off,
like a magnet.
I actually cheered, and like
it was so awesome.
How I got so invested in that character from like 2 scenes, and it just she was amazing.
I love that scene.
As we came into the end of that episode, honestly, when like I think for me it was like when Arondir and Elrond and Gil-galad were all in the same place. I was like, it was like a whole Avengers Assemble moment. I was like, this is gonna be crazy. And then seeing
talk about Gil-galad with eye glows.
Oh my god, dude! Oh my god!
That lance was his lance was keen. No one could withstand to it. Like I was like, oh my god!
It was it was genuine. It's the first time in this whole of 2 series of this show where
his line was really dope too. He was like, "Yo, where else should a king be?" You know, he's like, "Come on, bro." Like,
it was the first time in 2 series of this show that I've actually seen Gil-galad and thought, that is the king, the high king of the
You didn't like Creeper Gil-galad in season 1?
No, and he's just creeping in the bushes.
He's like, I was like, whoa, bro, that's crazy.
He has a line.
The portrayal of Gil-galad has been one of the weaknesses for me, and it was just nice to finally feel like there he is. There is the high king of the Noldor.
The line he does have when Elrond says, like, you shouldn't be here, and he says, I am a king is always where he's needed most, I think is the line. And I was just like, oh, love that, and he's with his soldiers, and it's a really cool moment. But Arondir, I refuse to believe he's dead.
No
He's
way.
not.
I refuse.
No way.
No, we didn't see it. We didn't see the eyes close. We didn't see the eyes close.
They would have narratively. They would have made a bigger deal out of it if he did die just there.
Yeah,
you can't like have that moment and then be like, "Oh no, he's dead." Next episode, like narratively, that's just really just disjointed.
Yeah, and they would not give one of like the main characters such an inauspicious death.
Yeah,
as that.
I did love. I loved him, and what I did love was when the troll when he's going after the troll and then he turns it into a group effort. I thought that was awesome when he screams commander for Elrond, and all of them kind of come together to take down the troll. It was so satisfying to see.
Gil-galad had the hook and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
It felt very Empire Strikes Back for me. Of like, are they gonna wrap it around his feet? Like,
no.
But no, I love that, and I guess to kind of move into what do we expect from the finale. The one thing I really want, I
want to talk Adar with Nenya.
Oh yeah,
what is up with that? Adar has Nenya. All right, that's
what was happening to his face.
Oh,
yes,
I think it was.
I also spotted that.
Was it just really weird CGI?
He was just getting more and more computer generated. It was odd.
Yeah,
he was becoming a robot. Dude. He's transforming.
It threw me out of it completely because.
Do you think like something's gonna happen? He's gonna put the ring on or something, and something's gonna happen. This is what
I've been thinking. Is it gonna like de-orcify him or something?
Dude, I'm just
like
once again got the box open waiting for it. Okay. Right in there.
I just don't understand why there was so much weird CGI on his face in that scene. But yeah, what is going to happen with him and Nenya?
I think Arondir. Well, I think Arondir's going to kill him in the next episode. I think Adar's done.
Yeah.
I think Aaron. I think he will. We think we're led to believe that Arondir has fallen. I think because they've made it this very big revenge plot for Arondir. I think he will end because of Arondir. I don't see. I could see a moment of where you think he's going to put on the ring, and that's when he dies.
Is
like he doesn't.
Is Arondir going to do a Kemen on him?
No,
that'd be a funny first 5 minutes of the episode. He's like, "Oh, I got the rope." Oh no! And like Arondir's like,
just crawling off the floor, just bleeding. He's like,
last time I said in the comments, wasn't he fairly clear the rings had to go into the crown like Silmarils? I genuinely don't remember that happening.
I don't think he said that, but
okay,
that'd be kind of badass. I don't know.
But it is a strange place to leave it.
Put on one of the things.
Each ring goes on each one.
Just have a ring in each spike. But as Kahina says in the comments, it is a strange place to leave it. Like Galadriel's gone with the 9, while Adar's there with Nenya with Elrond right there, and it's like, well, yeah, what the hell is going to happen?
Yeah, I really thought the episode was going to end when Elrond kept saying Durin's going to come or whatever it was.
I thought so too.
And then it was just cut to black. But I don't know.
No, then he starts looking up and Adar's there.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did he even bring Nenya to the battlefield? Like he says earlier on to Adar, Adar's like, you got it with you, and he's like,
maybe he's just keeping it next to him because he didn't want anything to happen to him in Linden or something. Like,
well, it's also a res kit. It's literally a first aid kit. Like,
everything's healing people. They can heal Arondir.
Yeah.
That must be what happens, right?
That's probably what's going to happen.
We have to wrap up Numenor. We have to wrap up.
Well, what is there to wrap up in Numenor?
Khazad-dûm.
We already did wrap it up in a way because Pharazôn's no longer it's not. Miriel's back.
Back in
control. So I'm like, are they just going to kind of show the division? I hope so. Maybe they'll have something quick.
I think we need to make it a little bit more clear, like the reasoning. Like we had that one scene of Pharazôn and Kemen about mortality.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be pushed a little bit more.
I think that Kemen has to die this season.
I need him to die now.
Yeah,
right now. It's messed up.
Yeah, episode 7.5 is just Kemen dying.
Yeah, they just tell you next episode. They're like, yeah, Kemen died. That's it.
Kemen died. Yeah, there's just like a thing at the end of the credits. And Kemen died.
Yeah.
The Harfots and the Strangers have to come in. Pelagier maybe will come into play at some point. But I do think that Sauron will take control of the orcs and Mordor this next episode.
Oh, absolutely. He's wearing a different armor in the trailer. He's wearing like some kind of serpent armor. It looks actually kind of
when he's fighting Galadriel,
Yeah, so we'll definitely say something. I'm gonna. Oh, go on. Sorry
the elven armor in this episode looked incredible to me.
Both Eregion and Linden.
Awesome.
And Linden armor.
Yes,
I really love the Eregion armor, all series with like the green and the.
I like the green. It was really cool.
Yeah, and then,
really
the silver and gold of the Noldor armor.
It was so beautiful.
You know, Eregion's Noldor as well. Linden armor. It was so beautiful. It was just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
But you can correct me on Celebrimbor dying in the next episode, most likely, or
I can't see it not happening.
Yeah,
I don't.
I mean, the actor posted a story with like banner in it, and it was like, dude, with a picture of Celebrimbor himself, and I was like, bro, what are you doing? It's pretty funny.
It's gonna break me. It's gonna absolutely destroy me. I don't want it to happen, but I can't see him not dying in the next episode. I don't see what else.
Yeah, where else you can take a story.
Do we see Sauron sticking with the form of Anatar, or will we see something else? Will he go back to Halbrand?
I really don't want him to go back to Halbrand.
No,
I don't mind Halbrand. I think going to Numenor,
like Halbrand.
Him being Halbrand again would be on point because like
it would make sense because humans and shit. But I do think
the Halbrand look at the end of season 1 with the black cloak. I like that. That was very hot, and I would not be against seeing that again.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind it at all. I'm okay with both forms. I mean, I would if he stays as Anatar, it would be fine. But I feel like he has to adjust a little just to be like friendlier with Pharazôn. Because you remember in the first season they like established a relationship. He's the one who got him out of jail and allowed him to work at the blacksmith because he sold out Galadriel, and it was like, you know, you should have got everyone at that point. I was already sold. I'm like, that's Sauron, bro. Like, Jesus.
We knew it was Sauron from the bloody raft.
Yeah, dude, we knew from
the
deceptive. Start, but with the finale next week, I strongly believe that the stranger will be Gandalf. He will meet the Dark Wizard. He will save these Harfoots. Yeah. They will start migrating to the Suzat, the Shire, Mandonaic. And I think that's how that's going to go. Tom Bombadil, I would bet money they're going to reference Goldberry and him going back to the Old Forest. I think Khazad-dûm's going to end with Durin the Fourth becoming king. That's all I'm going to say. Because of a certain someone is going to end up fighting another one. And then I think Eregion is going to really... I don't know. I feel like something weird's going to happen where they're going to end it abruptly, but I really hope they reference Rivendell. I really do.
Yes,
that's the thing I really want. That's the thing I really, really want. I want to see something to do with them heading to Imladris or something like that, like some little hint, or maybe like I've got this weird thing where sort of like a King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table thing, where like at the end, like they just sort of like stand around this circle in what will become Rivendell, and they're like, we should found something here, or like, you know, now that
this feels homely.
Should be
maybe the last
it feels homely. Yeah.
And then just cut Michael Bay like
Chew Lincoln Park.
Bathtime's made a good point in the comments that our Pharazôn saw Sauron in the Palantir as Halbrand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it does make sense. I'm just being biased because I prefer how the Anatar form looks to the Halbrand look. Like I do understand it would make more sense for him to look
I like both.
Halbrandy again, but
I like both. Halbrand was a homie though. He was like, I chill with Halbrand. Like we can eat clams, dude. It's cool.
Yeah, you can't chill with that.
Yeah, Halbrand's cool.
Would chill with
Anatar.
He did a Weirdania, dude. Like I'm not chill with Anatar.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not chilling with him, bro.
Is this so? I saw a thing. Someone said that Charlie Vickers deserves an Emmy just for managing to look menacing while having a little bow in his hair.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
I would be worried about getting Anatar dirty. Like that's why I couldn't hang out with him.
Dude, that
like,
guy wastes first stage wine. I'm not messing with him.
Yeah,
he didn't do it on purpose.
Whatever.
Halbrand Halbrand's chill, and I hang out with. I agree with Pete. I hang out with Halbrand, but this was a heck of an episode. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I'm staying with my parents. My dad. I hadn't watched it until today. My dad picked me and my girlfriend up from the airport this weekend, and he's like, "Are you guys caught up with Rings of Power?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he ended up watching it last night. I was getting dinner with some friends I hadn't seen in a while, and then I saw him this morning. He's like, "You watched the new episode, right?" And I was like, "Dad,
he like peeked through your door. Have you seen it?" It's like what?
literally.
Well, is your dad into Tolkien? Or is he just watching it?
Yeah, he got me into the old animations. He had read the books when they were coming out as a kid. He's not super deep into the lore.
This matters a lot to me though. Being he read before the Peter Jackson movies came out. What does he think of the show?
He loves it. He loved both seasons.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I dig that.
I think a lot of people, myself, we all like season 2 more. He likes season 2 more, but he loved the movies. He loved he's never read the Silmarillion or stuff like that. He read The Hobbit and then The Lord of the Rings. And
that's fine.
He had some.
That's what they're able to use, anyways.
Yeah, and so we watched the Lord of the Rings movies. He liked the Hobbit movies. He liked those. So he's also
Pete's just changed his mind.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I'm totally cool with people like Hobbit. I just don't like when people say that the Hobbit's better than Rings of Power because I will.
No, I don't think he doesn't think that those are better than Lord of the Rings, but he enjoyed them. He liked seeing Smaug and all of that.
That part was dope. That is one of my favorite parts of the trilogy.
Kind of Smaug was really cool.
Yeah.
But he really likes Rings of Power. And it was funny. I'm like, you watched it, right? You watched it? I'm like, nope, I got to watch it in 2 hours. But yeah, this episode was awesome. It's definitely up there in my favorites. But I want to go around. I'll start with you, Sandy. What was your favorite? If you could pick one, I know it's hard. One favorite part from this episode, what would it be?
Okay, it's got to be one of the Anatar Celebrimbor scenes. Which one? Do you know what? I think it might actually be... No, I think it's just going to be the Celebrimbor scene where, he did the whole thumb thing. Because, that was like Chekhov's finger cutter way at the start of the episode. I was like, that's happening later on. And then it happened. And that line he says, he was like, whose will is stronger or whatever. I was like, I loved it. I was so afraid they would just make Celebrimbor, I think like Lee said, just a puppet. Some guy who gets pushed over. And he just wasn't. And I was like, that's what I want to see. So I think that was the scene for me.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I like that.
Lee, what was your favorite part of this episode?
I was going to say the same scene because of it was showing the strength of Celebrimbor. Also, the fact Celebrimbor tried to destroy the rings, which are his creations, and having your creations destroyed it's a very established, difficult thing. He did something that Feanor failed to do.
Yes.
Ultimately, he couldn't destroy them.
In the end, he surpassed Feanor.
Yes.
But
he did.
He died.
As he should.
So yeah, that scene, because it showed Celebrimbor's strength, who has the greater will, because it was, the reference to Maedhros, but also what he said to Galadriel when he was telling her to leave. Just those two scenes, I'm struggling to pick between them because it was just for me it was the Celebrimbor show, and it's just any of his scenes in this episode I could pick as my favorite. He was so good.
Before I go to you, Pete, the one thing I want to piggyback off of what you just said is the scene with Galadriel and Celebrimbor when she finally fully admits to what Sauron had done to her, and having that moment together of I know what he did the same thing to me. And I understand how you feel. And I'm like, oh, she's finally
broke my heart.
She's been realizing it slowly.
Celebrimbor broke my heart with it because he's like, I knew something was wrong, but I wanted it so bad. And it's just that was gut wrenching.
Yeah.
But But Pete, what was your favorite?
Mr. Mouse. I love Mr. Mouse.
That's the correct answer. Thank you.
No, just the Khazad-dûm speech and Celebrimbor's speech about darkness and light really embody a lot of aspects of just Lord of the Rings, like just Middle Earth. And I get wily sometimes. Most times I'm pretty chill. Other times, like, you know, there's some comments that really trigger me because I'm so tired of having to argue about certain things. I like Rings of Power. I don't care what other people think. I like it because it embodies Tolkien's work, its spirit, its themes. And, you know, in the end, these are only annals of tales for the Second Age. There's no definitive thing which really even telling you. We argue over when Celebrimbor left Lindon between 700 and 750 of the Second Age. Oh, when were the rings formed and when did the war start with Eregion? Well, 93 years. Like, it's not really exact. Only some of these dates we've actually, as fans, have come to conclusions of and have then accepted it as like what facts are. While, you know, the histories would come out later because this is like a lot of stuff was in the 70s too. Like, and point being is that like people's imaginations used to run wild. And I think we've lost that a little bit because we have so much exposure to Tolkien's writing. It's great. I love it. But there are times where it's like, yo, the Annals of Aman versus the Grey Annals versus, like, you know, what we read in the Milton Waldman letter are all different versions of the Silmarillion, all focus on different aspects. And there seems to be a whole different version of the Children of Húrin, which is expanded upon in two different versions. It's like, dude, it kills your love a little. And I like that Rings of Power is kind of like, I've seen fans talking about it. They're like excited about it. So those speeches, like, for me, really stand out. Like, and I love, and also the scenery. All the scenery was gorgeous. Like the fisheye with the charge with the horses and the elves and so forth. A lot of people said the battle was a little sloppy. I think it was supposed to be. Like, you see horses in mud and it's just like chaos on chaos.
That was a great scene.
And I like that because that's what Tolkien said about World War I. It was chaos. There was no order. There was no ranking or anything. There was just death. And he was at the Battle of Somme
what
too.
battle is like.
Yeah, so it's like when people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, well, it wasn't like they weren't in rank. They would never be." I'm like, "Yo, have you ever been in battle before, buddy? Having to fight someone like that close to your face with a sword? One bad move, you're dead." I doubt it. I haven't, but at least I have a little more awareness at that point. So that's my whole thing. I'm done.
Nice. I think for me, there were so many moments with Elrond that stuck out, but I do think Elrond and Arondir working together to take down that troll really just like it actually had me like sitting up like, oh, ooh, yeah, I love this.
I did love the teamwork on that. So good.
It was so good. There was just so many moments. There was the moment that I mentioned when Elrond screamed that I was like, I like this. This makes me feel good. But I'm going to call it there. This has been great. I love this episode. I am very excited for next week's episode. I'm also sad, as I said, because it'll be the last episode we get until
gone so quickly.
Season.
You really have. This has been so fun though. This whole series.
Yeah.
And
next season, let's hope it's not quicker. They might just drop.
Yeah, I really hope so. Oh my god.
Right? Yeah, they're
move it up.
Yeah, but like, I had a great time with this episode. I've had a great time this whole time. I think next week the plan is there will be a lot of people that want to come on, which will be a ton of fun because it is the finale. I don't want to say who because we don't have anything confirmed, but I think next week definitely expect a pretty large panel. I'll be on there. I believe Luke from Podwans will be joining us.
Are you talking about the watch party or the post discussion or both?
What we're doing now for well both. I think both the watch party and the after discussion will be relatively large from what I've been hearing around. Because it's very exciting that this is going to wrap up and it's been a lot of fun and I'm excited. But Sandy, I'll start with you. We'll do clockwise again. Where can we find you on the internet? What are you working on? Is there anything fun and exciting coming up that you want to tell us about?
So my name is Movie Comic Junkie. I'm primarily on TikTok, but I'm also on Instagram and I'm pushing into YouTube Reels at the minute, just seeing what happens. Anything I'm working on? No, it's honestly just been Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings content right now, just really hitting that stride. Because I get so many questions about this stuff, about the greater lore when each episode comes out. And I'm like, yeah, I want to talk about that. So yeah, that's just me, mainly on TikTok, talking about Lord of the Rings.
Awesome. And Lee, same thing. Where can we find you on the internet, and what have you been working on? What do you got coming up?
I am Silmarillion. I'm on TikTok is my main platform, and Threads for written stuff. There's a really great talking community on Threads, so I encourage everyone to join there and join in. Instagram, and my videos are also featured on the Voices of Arda YouTube channel. Coming up, there's going to be a lot of talk about Rings of Power, and whatever happens next week, there'll be a lot. I'll just be talking about that for a lot.
All right, and Pete, same thing.
I know, for like the seventh time or whatever since we've done this. I mean, actually, no, more like 5 because it was the first 3 episodes. Yeah, I'm BE1Mon_LOTR. You can find me on TikTok, Threads, Instagram. But I'm doing this for Voices of Arda as a rep for them. We've been really trying to build that community on YouTube as well, with like shorts and inviting other creators to join in on more of a community, because that's what Tolkien's really about. When we talk about this stuff, or we talk about like Tolkien talk, it's a community that's formed out of nowhere for a love of these books and these adaptations, be it Rings of Power, be it Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. So definitely check out the site. If you're not subscribed already, I'm sorry, YouTube, if you're not subscribed already, by all means, please, because it's awesome seeing everyone together. You know, I'm included, Lee's a part of it, you know, and of course, like, you know, Sandy's been on the podcast before, so you can always check out his episode where he recorded with Willie and New Better in Cali Cosplay.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm Forward Into the Black on TikTok, and I'm here with the Podwans pretty regularly, talking about mostly Star Wars stuff, but obviously talking about Lord of the Rings has been awesome with you guys, and doing this with Voices of Arda has been a pleasure and a half. Yeah, this really has been great. I am genuinely sad that next week is the last week, because this has been so much fun, but we'll make next week a banger for sure. I'm very excited for the finale. But again, I want to thank all of you for being here, and for chatting with me and dumping all the lore. And it's so fun. Like the more that this has gone on, the more I'm like catching on to stuff. Like even with the kiss, I'm like,
He's like writing notes. This is gonna be fun to talk.
I know
about.
This is wrong.
Yeah, I loved how in the document about it, you put kiss all in capitals. The kiss. And Arondir better not die.
Yes. He's not allowed to die. I refuse. Him and Poppy are not allowed to die. I refuse to.
Dude, I don't even know how Luke will react if something happens to Poppy. You might cry.
I
know. Time will tell. Hopefully they don't screw it up. But thank you guys again. And we will be here next week on Thursday for the watch along and the reaction. I will probably try and hop on with that with you guys, since I haven't done that.
Can't wait.
And then we will talk about it in depth with everyone next Friday. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in.